This half hour, we've mentioned how people between the ages of 35 and 50 are most common to get plastic surgery, but rapper Cardi B recently addressed younger people who may be looking into cosmetic procedures on an Instagram Live. And we're going to paraphrase her message for TV, but she said, if you're 19, 20, 21, and sometimes you're too skinny, if you think you need to inject fat into your rear end, don't. The rapper also said she recently had surgery to get rid of 95% of the injections in that area of her body. So let's continue the conversation and talk about, I know, right, some interesting triggers motivating some people to get plastic surgery. Dr. Pamela Rutledge is the director for the Media Psychology Center. Dr. Rutledge, it's good to see you again. And you've said all of us, Zooming during and after the pandemic is causing a plastic surgery surge. Can you explain what's going on there?
Sure. Well, I don't want to say causally directly, but this increased video calling, along with an increasing acceptance of aesthetic surgery, that's been going on for a while. You know, plastic surgeons used to complain that people would come in because they wanted to look better in their selfies, or call that Snapchat dysmorphia. And now they're talking about Zoom dysmorphia. But the interesting thing about Zoom is that you are watching yourself talk to other people, which means you're very aware of how they're responding to you as well as you're responding to them. And it's very difficult to not hyper focus on the things that you don't like about yourself. And this has, in the amount of time we're spending on virtual meetings, has encouraged people to seek out some information about plastic surgery, which is, as you know, all over social media.
I mean, to that point, I'm curious, I want to ask you, because we've learned that the number of men who are looking into plastic surgery or have gone through some sort of procedure has increased. Do you think that's part of it? The fact that, you know, most people are on Zoom, that it's kind of expanded, you know, the interest from men, or what do you think is the reason for that?
I think the changing social norms is a big reason that it's become more socially acceptable. But COVID and virtual meetings had a lot to do with it, because the Zoom effect affects men as much as it does women. And this increased notice of imperfections, not to mention the huge range of non-surgical treatments as well as surgical ones that are available and more affordable. And let's not forget ageism, right? It affects all of us in all industries, but especially if you're working in technology, it's a serious problem.
What does this mean for folks who are under 30 considering, you know, undergoing procedures and really the long-term effects of this?
I think it's important for young people and everyone to realize that physical appearance is an important part of our personal identity. And, you know, it's related to the self-perception that we start growing early in life. It changes over time. So it's important, if you're young, to not invest too much in whatever the current beauty ideals that you get from parents or peers, or particularly the media, because there's a well-documented influence of what's in the media, the beauty ideals in the media on cosmetic surgery, as indicated by Cardi. But young people should also know that one of the most common plastic surgery procedures is people trying to reverse what they did that was not well thought out, or where they had unrealistic expectations. And if there's one problem with all the social media, and plastic surgeons use it all the time to, you know, to show off their work and to show off the procedures, they only show the good stuff, right? But if you see all these great outcomes, then you show up with very unrealistic expectations, and that can actually damage your self-esteem, not help it.
That is incredible to hear, that a good portion of the surgeries that are happening are to reverse, you know, an original procedure. I did not know that. Well, bottom line question, if you could just wrap it up in a nutshell, why is plastic surgery so popular?
Well, it's normal to want to look good and be attractive to others. And social media plays a big role in providing us with images of what it means to be beautiful and desirable. And, you know, we can filter ourselves, which is a very unrealistic, idealized version of ourselves. So it makes sense that people would try and alter how they look naturally to achieve that view that they're so fond of. But it's a very dangerous path to follow, because it's bad enough to want to look like an unrealistic ideal of someone else, but an unrealistic ideal of yourself is really a recipe for disaster.
Gosh, Dr. Pamela Rutledge, you're getting deep there with that point. Really insightful and internal. Well, thank you for the insight as always. We appreciate it. We have